Ken, give us a sense of how this could play out there this morning.
Good morning, Anna. Well, as you said, James Comey is in the courtroom, and if protocol has been followed, he would have been booked before his appearance here, because this is not only his arraignment, it's a surrender. Remember, we've reported that people in the Trump administration wanted to have him arrested and perp walked, and an FBI agent resisted that and was fired as a result. But that brings us to where we are today, where he is surrendering. He'll be processed by the FBI, we believe, fingerprinted, perhaps a mugshot taken, a kind of a dramatic moment for a former FBI director. And then this hearing will begin. It's an arraignment, so the two charges of lying to Congress and obstructing official proceeding will be read in full. He'll have an opportunity to enter a plea. There should be some discussion about conditions of release and any other matters that his lawyers think they need to bring to the attention of the judge today. It should be a short hearing, and it's unclear to us whether James Comey intends to make any public statements afterwards on it.
Ken, can you just remind us, we brought up the couple of charges that he's facing. Remind us what he's accused of lying about.
Well, it's not entirely clear, Anna, and that's one of the interesting things about this case. The indictment cites a question that was put to him in a 2020 hearing by Senator Ted Cruz, and the context of the question was about his dealings with his deputy, Andrew McCabe, over leaks to the media. But we've subsequently learned that this actually isn't about McCabe. There's someone identified as person number 3 in the indictment. We've reported, and we've been told that is Dan Richmond, James Comey's former aide, who's working as a special government employee at the FBI. And so the issue is whether Comey was telling the truth when he testified way back in 2017 that he had never authorized anyone at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports. Senator Cruz essentially restated that question in the 2020 hearing. But none of this is clear in the indictment, so it'll be interesting to see if it's any more clear today. And for that reason and for other reasons, a lot of people think this is a very weak case, so weak, in fact, that not only was the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney forced out of office for failing to bring it, today we have U.S. attorneys, prosecutors in the courtroom on behalf of the Eastern District of Virginia who are from North Carolina. They're not from this district, which suggests that no line prosecutor in this district was willing to walk into court to bring this case on.
Rebecca, again, the two charges today are lying to Congress and obstructing a congressional proceeding. How serious are these charges?
Well, they're serious. If the government can prove the charges, he could face prison time. I mean, it would be unlikely, but he could. I mean, they're serious charges, lying to Congress.
Judge, even if it is a high profile or a sensitive case like this, would you expect today to just go by the book, so to speak, or are there any potential curveballs you would be preparing for?
I think we have to prepare for curveballs when we're dealing with this administration. But other than that, an arraignment is a pro forma proceeding in every criminal case, and it is a requirement that every criminal defendant be informed precisely of the charges against them. And as a result, you will hear the judge read the indictment, or the clerk will read the indictment, and will ask Mr. Comey how he pleads through his lawyer. I'd put the safe money on Mr. Comey through his lawyer saying that he pleads not guilty. There then should be a quick review about conditions of release. I assume that jail and bail won't be an issue in this case, and there'll be an adjournment, maybe a motion scheduled to figure out who's filing what papers. But it should be pro forma. It happens in every criminal case. It happened in Donald Trump's criminal case, and it should be uneventful.
And we expect it to go fairly quickly. We
Yes.
just got an update from inside the courtroom. According to the Associated Press, James Comey just entered a not guilty plea when asked. Again, because it's federal court, we don't have cameras in the courtroom and people aren't able to get devices in the courtroom. So we're, of course, having a reporter inside, and we'll get the full readout when the court is over. But, Judge, we've already seen thousands of layoffs at the DOJ under Trump and Pam Bondi. We've seen a lot of Trump loyalists, some with little or no prosecutorial experience, elevated into these real senior high-profile roles. Other career prosecutors have been purged. Could that inexperience in a case like this hamper the federal government's case moving forward with this judge?
Certainly. Even experienced lawyers and career prosecutors make mistakes in court. That's why we have an appellate process. That's why we have district courts and the Supreme Court to review what's done downstairs, so to speak, in trial courts. Certainly that can happen. But when you have inexperience and you don't have expertise, you'll find there'll be more pitfalls, and I'm sure that the defense will exploit that where appropriate.
Christopher, just as you sit here as a former FBI senior official, I'm wondering what's going through your mind to just see what's playing out before the American public and what, you think people inside the FBI may be feeling in this moment.
Well, I can tell you what people in the FBI are feeling, that it is, I speak to people every day. I'll see some senior agents later this evening. And the mood is very dire throughout the FBI. This looks like it's deliberate. It looks like they're going after him for retribution. I will tell you the charge, the providing material of false information, is something that, as an agent and as a leader in the FBI, we have used at times. But it's very difficult to get past the U.S. Attorney's Office to start with. And what we generally do is we have our case built and all the details built before we pull anybody in for an interview, so we can demonstrate that this person is intentionally, knowingly providing false information to the agents doing the interview. Once you have that, then you can demonstrate that they intentionally did this. They were trying to mislead the investigation. But it doesn't appear we have any of this. So normally, if this was an agent bringing this to a U.S. Attorney's office, they'd be laughed out of the office.
Well, and apparently that is, in effect, what happened with the people inside this U.S. Attorney's office under the former U.S. Attorney, Eric Siepert, who was forced out because he didn't bring forward a prosecution. And as we've learned, according to our reporting at MSNBC and what Ken mentioned, this U.S. Attorney, the new interim U.S. Attorney, Lindsay Halligan, has now enlisted a couple of outside prosecutors to now move forward in trying this case. How unusual is that?
It's extremely unusual. And, part of the thing about expertise, in a way, it avoids pitfalls that the defense can exploit, but it also is a reassurance that things are proceeding as they normally would. When you see the experts in the courtroom, or you have reassurance, the public does, and the judge does, that things are proceeding as they normally should. When you see things happen like this, it's a red flag. It's a sign that something is going on behind the scenes that is different and troubling. And so we might not know exactly what that is, but we've had that red flag, and I think as the public, we should pay attention to that.
Ken, what are you learning about what's happening right now inside the courthouse?
Yeah, the reporting, as you said, inside the courtroom, Anna, is that James Comey has pleaded not guilty to the 2 counts, that he's waived the reading of the indictment, formal reading, and that he is asking for a jury trial. All very standard pro forma things that happen in an arraignment, but that's what we know so far.
Just on the optics here, Ken, you were among those who reported out this news that we have outside prosecutors who would be representing the government today. You also have reporting that today's arraignment could have had a much different tone. Apparently, there was a push to have Comey do a perp walk in handcuffs.
Yeah, that's right. That's our reporting. That's what the Trump administration wanted. We didn't know that, though, until we learned that the FBI agent who resisted that, who said, no, thanks, that's not how we do business here in these kinds of cases, that agent was fired for insubordination. And the FBI director has essentially confirmed that in a post on X. And so that's how it could have transpired. That's how some people inside the Trump administration wanted it to transpire, a very public arrest in front of the cameras with James Comey in handcuffs. But that kind of thing almost never happens in cases like this that are about lying to investigators or similar kinds of nonviolent, white-collar sorts of charges. That would have been extraordinary. It didn't happen. And you're absolutely right. To the other issue, which is prosecutors from outside the district having to come in and try this case. That's just the tenor of what's been happening. The whole thing from the beginning, when you hear that the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney was forced out because he didn't think there was any merit to this case. And so then Donald Trump appoints his former defense attorney, who has never tried a criminal case, who's an insurance lawyer, to be the U.S. attorney. And then that person can't find any line prosecutor inside of this district, which is, by the way, one of the most prominent U.S. attorney's offices in the country. They do a lot of national security cases here. Couldn't find any lawyers who are willing to go into court and put their name on this case. That just speaks volumes about where we are today. We don't know all the evidence in this case. We don't know why they were able to convince 14 grand jurors to vote in favor of indicting James Comey. So we should be a little, we should defer judgment on that. But we do know that a lot of experts did not think that this was a very strong case.
Rebecca, would we see some of what was presented to the grand jury at this stage? Might we get a little bit more information or inside knowledge?
Probably not. I mean, you know, as the judge was saying, this is a pro forma hearing, and this is the first stage, and there are stages to come. Discovery will happen. There will be motions, and at that stage, we will hear more of the details of what it is that the government presented to the grand jury. But at this point, you know, directly through court, which is exactly the way that prosecutors should and normally do speak, we won't hear much.
I mean, Chris, it sounds like the attorney's office wanted, or at least the FBI, whoever makes the decisions on the arrest and perp walk piece, they wanted to make a big show of all of this. What's your reaction to this reporting that somebody was fired because they said, no, I'm not going to do it?
Yeah, so I don't know him well, and he's not somebody who's in my personal circles, but supervisory special agent from a violent crime squad at a Washington field office, who they go after some of the worst violent offenders in and around the Washington, D.C. area. They asked for him to put together a team of people who would be wearing tactical kit, and they wanted beefy, large agents to make a show of it. That is not standard. That is not normal. And the question the American people should be asking themselves is why. You know, of course, they wanted to make a show out of it. But would your average citizen, an objective, reasonable citizen, think this is justice, or that this is theatrical and it's political retribution? And I mean, to me, it's certainly the latter.